Alright, the Demonology Warlock. And a couple things that we're going to go over right off the bat with this thing in this real quick guide. First thing I want to talk about is going to be the new mastery. Master Demonologist. It's a passive, but now it plays directly into one of your abilities called Demonic Empowerment. And Demonic Empowerment is going to also increase the damage of your demons by X amount of percent. What Demonic Empowerment does beforehand is just increase their haste and their stamina, which ties very well into the Legion model and Thelkial, which is your artifact. Currently, that's stuff that you don't need to worry about as we end up proceeding in, but just know that this is more or less tuned for Legion more than anything else. The next thing you need to know about are going to be the current tier sets. This is for the pre-Legion patch, so we do need to talk about these tier sets and how they are affecting things. Because they are directly affecting the way this thing plays out, even though they shouldn't. Rotations changed a bit because of the tier sets and Archimonde's trinket. So the first thing we'll talk about, your 2 set, Shadow Bolt increases the damage done by your demons by 2% for 15 seconds. This effect can stack up to 10 times. Not a whole lot has changed on there because you're going to be doing a lot of spamming of Shadow Bolt or Demon Bolt. Demon Bolt does affect it the same way. And then your 4 set, when your Wild Imps cast Fellfire Bolt, you have a 2% chance to summon a demon from the void to assist you in battle. That's where things start getting interesting, especially when you tie it into the trinket. The trinket itself is going to have a 47% chance, or whatever item level you have of this trinket, but it's going to have a very decent chance to summon 3 Wild Imps whenever you cast Hand of Gul'dan. That's not including the Wild Imps that it's already summoning. So you take that 4 set and this trinket, and you can have some very interesting combinations with RNG being on your side. With this being said, let's go ahead and move on into the talents, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on in the rotation. Alright, so here we are looking at the talents, and a couple things to really end up going over. Level 15, Shadowy Inspiration's just very fluent to the rotation, and you have 0 loss, 0 proc chance. If you're already timing out your global cooldowns, this is going to make it very simple, because what it does is right after you cast Demonic Empowerment, it's going to give you a free cast on Shadow Bolt or Demon Bolt. Then you have Shadow Flame. Not very useful except for a questing soloing situation for nuking something down. It's very hard to keep 3 stacks of this up, and it does generate a soul shard each time you cast it, but it's kind of clunky to end up keeping things up. It does do a solid amount of burst damage, but it's not great in a raid situation. And then Demonic Calling, this isn't so bad either. Basically, this is just going to allow you to get some more Dreadstalkers in. But currently, Shadowy Inspirations just been both out. Level 30, you have Impending Doom, you have Improved Dreadstalkers, and Implosion. Implosion currently is okay for AoE, but you don't want to waste your imps, especially if you have the T18 4 set and Archimonde's trinket. With this being said, Impending Doom will actually be the top if you do fit those 2 qualifications, just for the simple fact that you're going to be spending more time casting Hand of Gul'dan and wanting to see more imps than you will Dreadstalkers. Dreadstalkers will actually fall out of the rotation. We'll talk more about that later if you have those 2 items. Improved Dreadstalkers, on the other hand, it's not bad if you don't fit that category. You'll summon your Dreadstalkers and you'll end up actually getting 2 imps along with it. They don't count as separate entities, but they do still count as separate demons. Kind of hard to end up playing that one out, but that's the way it works. They come out riding on the back of these Dreadstalkers, and you do end up seeing the additional damage. And then Implosion, it's okay for an AoE situation if you need a great nuke, but you don't want to waste your imps, just for the simple fact that your 4 set, each time your imp casts a firebolt, you have a chance of summoning yet another demon. Level 45, you have Demon Skin, Mortal Coil, and Shadow Fury. If you do not need the CC, Demon Skin is the top choice. If you do need the CC, Shadow Fury is going to be there, just because the AoE stun works very well, and Mortal Coil is fairly useless in any PvE scenario. Level 60, you have Hand of Doom, Power Trip, and Soul Harvest. Soul Harvest it really doesn't end up fitting the rotation. You can end up using it and building a bunch, but it doesn't work. Hand of Doom, works okay in an AoE situation, but be sure that you end up using it with Summon Dark Glare and the level 100 talents. Hand of Doom itself, whenever you're casting Hand of Gul'dan, it puts Doom on everything. It also reapplies Doom. Therefore, you do not get the benefit of Doom going off if you do not work this thing 100% correctly in an AoE situation, and you will lose out on all that additional Doom damage by reapplying. Doom no longer does damage unless it actually finishes its countdown. Power Trip is the best in this situation just for the simple fact whenever you go to cast Demonic Empowerment, you have a 50% chance to refund a Soul Shard. Level 75, you have Demonic Circle, Burning Rush, and Dark Pact. Now you'll see I have Burning Rush on there just for the mobility more than anything. If you need an additional defensive cooldown, Dark Pact is amazing. Currently, Demonic Circle, unless you know that you need to be in a coordinated area at a certain point, a certain time, does not fit for a talent choice. Level 90, you have Grimoire of Supremacy, Grimoire of Service, and Grimoire of Synergy. Grimoire of Supremacy is quite a waste, as your Doom Guard being on a 3-minute cooldown now, which would be your pet of choice if you did take the talent, doesn't really fit, because once you end up having it as that 3-minute cooldown, you can basically end up using this thing at all points and times, and keep it empowered every 3 minutes, compared to having it out and losing the damage that your Felguard would normally end up doing. It's just not worth it. Grimoire of Service works really good, and whenever you use this, you're going to want to use the Grimoire Felguard, just for the additional damage that it can end up doing, and remember, whenever it comes out, make sure you empower it yet again. Grimoire of Synergy, it's okay for questing. It's really not that great in a raid situation, as you don't really have any solid way of tracking this. It's just randomly there, and then randomly gone. As the worst service, you have that control. You can use it in burst situations. If you know you've got a burst window coming up, like on Gorefiend, you can actually use this ability in the timely manner that you need it. And then level 100, you have Summon Dark Glare, Demon Bolt, and Soul Conduit. Soul Conduit does end up playing into this quite nicely. It does give you a decent amount of return on Soul Shards, especially with the way that Hand of Gul'dan seems to be taking over right now and having more imps out. It plays very well. I do take Demon Bolt because I do like the additional damage whenever they're out, and it also sits a lot better for a single target nuke. And if you need to swap targets, it doesn't really hold you back that much. You don't have to build a bunch of demons up first because the demons are already attacking your main target, and Demon Bolt is going to do a really solid amount of damage for nuking down that additional mob. And then Summon Dark Glare. If you have a cleave situation, Summon Dark Glare is going to take over. The main reason for this is because it's going to attack any target that's actually got your Doom on, and it's going to definitely do a solid amount of damage, but it is just under the other two in a single target, but does take over on 2+ mobs. Just remember, with the Dark Glare, once you summon the Beholder, make sure you end up empowering it to get the full benefit out of that ability. With this, let's talk a little bit on the rotation, and then we'll get right into the stats after that. So here we have our general rotation priority list. And what you're really looking at doing here is, first thing on the list is going to be Doom. You're going to want to always keep this up. It is your Soul Shard generator, but you want to reapply this right after it wears off. If this does not wear off, it does not do its damage. You do not get your Soul Shard, and you are completely wasting this ability. Doom has returned to that mechanic instead of just being a solid dot. The next thing is Demonic Empowerment. This is your bread and butter to the entire spec. As you summon demons, you need to use this right after summoning them so you can increase their haste, their health, and their attack power based on your mastery. Make sure you are using this 100% after summoning every demon. You can basically maintain this and have your pets do about 60% increased damage if you follow it just right. You need to make sure you're using this after summoning every demon. The next one's going to be called Dreadstalkers. This thing currently is very solid, but very not, depending on how you are. If you have the 4-piece and Archimonde's trinket, you will wipe Dreadstalkers completely out of your rotation. And I've tested it because I couldn't believe it, but yes, it's true. Called Dreadstalkers is actually, on a longer fight, a waste. The more imps that you have out, the more that you're casting Hand of Gul'dan, the better off you are. Hand of Gul'dan, you want to still cast it on 4 to 5 shards. Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt is going to be your single target filler, and Fellstorm, which is your controlled demon ability, you're going to use this on cooldown. Those are the bases of what you're going to want to end up doing in the single target. Now back to Call Dreadstalkers. Normally, you guys don't want to get used to not using this ability because it does play very solid into Legion itself. Currently, the only reason why I say you'll pull it out is if you've got the tier sets that you've got. But as soon as we go into Legion and you get Thelkials, you're going to want to use Call Dreadstalkers yet again because it does get a very solid amount of damage buffed through it. So try not to get used to not using it, but if you do need a higher rating edge compatibility, wipe it out because currently the tier sets and Archimonde's Trinket work completely against it. Now we'll go into Life Tap. Life Tap is still here, and yes, you will need it because things get quite expensive, especially doing Demonic Empowerment. Demonic Empowerment costs a lot, so does spamming your Shadow Bolt or your Demon Bolt. So you will definitely need to be using Life Tap, and as usual, you're going to use it sub 50%, and you've got nothing else that needs to be refreshed or done. You do want to make sure this is there. I've caught myself a few times where I've ran completely and I've had to hit it a few times, messing up my rotation and my global cooldowns. Your generalized pet's still going to be the Felguard. It's got more damage output than the other pets for this spec, and same thing goes with your Grimoires. You're going to want to end up using Grimoire Felguard as your cooldown. And then also Summon Doomguard is going to be your main burst CD also, unless you took that horrible talent. With this, let's take a quick look at some of the stats. Alright, so here's our stats, and definitely Intel, Spell Power. Don't even know why that still needs to be put up there, because it should be common knowledge that that is your top burst. That is the way that you're going to get more of your damage. That's just overall top in any situation. Next is going to be Haste. Haste does a lot of different things. One, yes, it's still reducing your cast time. That's really damn good because Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt being your main soul shard generator, it's going to help out quite a bit. But it also directly affects your pets, so that increases their cast time, that increases their swing time, whatever they're doing. Overall, this is going to affect your pet's damage also. Then you have Doom. Normally on a 20-second before, it's got to go 20 seconds before it does any damage. Haste will directly affect that also, and if you've got a high enough haste percentage, you can get it fairly low down to 9-10 seconds, if not even lower once you're in a Bloodlust situation where you're just constantly spamming Doom. Mastery and Crit are very close also, but Mastery will slightly edge it out as anything after 20% Crit is normally considered a bit much in this setup, and you'll actually start gimping your damage if you don't go Mastery over it. Now Versatility at the bottom of the list, even though it is a direct damage increase and damage reduction, you don't need either one just because of the way this thing plays. So the Demonology Warlock, there's a few things I really do enjoy about it. The one, there's a lot to master on this class before you can actually consider yourself a master of demons as a Demonology Warlock. So much is played into this spec. You have to end up watching the dynamics of your Doom ticks during lust situations, as it'll end up coming off a lot sooner than what you're normally used to. So you may want to end up applying a weak aura to try and keep track of that just a bit better. That way you know, hey, okay, this thing's not on, I need to end up throwing it back up, or maybe a little tell me when, something. There's a lot of things you can do to help improve this spec. Currently, it's not working as intended. In Legion, you're going to be affecting a lot of your different pets with a lot of different abilities, maintaining the demonic empowerment. There's so much that's going on. Call Dreadstalkers, empowering them. You're going to want to end up making sure your Felguard's empowered at all times. Your Doomguard, you summon it, you want to empower it. Everything is going to be based around demonic empowerment, and it plays very solid. But currently, the way that it's set up, if you have the tier 18 and the Archimonde trinket, you really don't need to even worry about Dreadstalkers, and I think that's a bad thing right now, but it's playing out very solid. Where this thing really shines is in single target. It has a very high sustained single target damage. It is a solid nuke, but it does have a ramp up time. It's a decent ramp up time also compared to most. But once they get there, you have a very solid amount of additional damage it'll end up coming out. You'll see your imps just shooting firebolts left and right. Your Dreadstalkers will do their thing if you don't have the tier 18 and the Archimon trinket. Where this thing's really going to take off though is going to be in Legion, because right now it just does not fit. You have the rings, people are popping the rings off at odd times, and it just doesn't fit you because you don't have that on-demand burst that most classes do to fit in there. But it is a fun spec. Now when it comes down to dungeons, trash, anything like that, you're more than likely want to go Hand of Doom and then go with the Beholder, just because you want to stay competitive. If you can't stay competitive, then that's going to really end up gimping you. And in shorter fights, things like Demon Bolt and Soul Conduit just won't end up comparing to what it will in the level 100 talents. Lots of different choices with this thing, and that's what really makes me excited about the Demonology Warlock, is the fact that you can sit down and make a ton of different specs with this thing right now, and every single one of them will do good in certain situations. This is definitely going to be a spec when we do get in the Legion rating that will more than likely be swapping talents more frequently than other classes because of its design choice. With this, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself, and as always, thanks for watching.